I asked for the double-double, and they gave me the double-double. Sorry, I'm having a Homer moment.
Homer moment. Ah, Gim.
Welcome to the edge of nowhere. They're playing games at the edges of what we know. Monster Lore Tour Podcast. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this 59th episode of the Monster Lore Tour Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Carr, here along with my co-host and the Arthur to my tick, Mr. Matt Ozero, a.k.a. the MOZ. How we doing today, MOZ?
No complaints.
Do you understand what I just did right there?
You made yourself the tick.
Yes, but I made you Arthur, which makes you
a
Mothman.
Wow.
He's dressed as a moth, MOZ.
Yeah, good job.
You're the moth MOZ today.
Job. Yes.
Yeah. Or MOZ
well
man?
Done.
Are you just MOZ man? The moth MOZ?
The MOZ man. Yeah.
We'll have to work on that.
Cuckoo-joob.
You might need yourself a hero outfit, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
we can do dress up.
Jumping into the Mothman today to finish off Hollow Week in big fashion. Love it.
I have one coming up for you for a little dress up thing that you have to do for Halloween. So, yeah.
Oh, Halloween.
Or I'm not sure. It's coming up soon.
You're not going to summon Bubbles, are you?
No.
Okay, good. I don't need that kind of trouble in my life, MOZ.
No one wants to meet Bubbles again.
Nope. But before we get into the meat of Mothman here, we've got some old business. I'm just going to roll through this real quick. I mentioned the Bat Squatch episode a few times in the previous episode in Lechuza or La Lechuza. We'll get to that in a minute. But I never did give the episode number, which is something I typically do. So Bat Squatch episode 33. Episode 33 Bat Squatch for those interested. We also updated the theme song last week, which I would have told you about it last week, but I didn't know till after we recorded that it was going to be.
Is that because Tim's suing us for proceeds or something?
Nope, just put a little bit more voice on there from our Dr. Arnett interview from last season that I thought was very fitting for us.
Nice.
So, but thanks again to Mr. Tim Levy at timlevy.com for the fantastic theme song. I really do think we have one of the best theme songs out there, and it's all thanks to him, man. We had nothing to do with that. Nope. He's a genius.
He is.
The only thing we did there was no Tim. But okay, so old business. Next point. Next point, MOZ said, or actually, let me ask MOZ, who said the internet is a series of tubes? You brought this up last
I said it was some Alaskan senator. I couldn't think of his name. So
you were halfway there. It was an Alaskan senator. His name was Ted Stevens.
Ted Stevens.
Yeah. And once you hear it, you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. But I bet our younger listeners thought you made that up. But you can look that up, everybody. Ted Stevens, the internet is a series of tubes.
It's a series of tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that.
The aughts were an interesting time.
Yeah.
And one piece of side business to what I said at the beginning here. I did have a thought on the Lechuza or La Lechuza thing.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be that maybe Lechuza is the plural and La Lechuza is the singular or something like that?
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps.
Maybe it's just a grammatical thing that's singular and plural.
I've seen so many spellings and so many different. It was all over the map.
And true. Sometimes it's A, sometimes it's E, and
yes. Yeah, and the choose is spelled differently at different times.
Right.
Sometimes it's one word, sometimes two.
Is it an old word from like tribal times where it's like people are translating it phonetically?
We talked about a little of the etymology, and it does go way back even to Aztec and Nahuatl. So there's definitely some even pre-colonial kind of.
That could totally explain the variety of spellings.
Yep.
But All right, enough of me rambling. This is Moz is up to finish our Owl Week saga here, so why don't you take it away here, Moz?
Well, prerequisite-wise, we don't really have any. This is a Mothman episode, so it kind of stands on its own, and we are plopping it in the middle of our Owl Week because we don't believe it's a moth, obviously, nor should anyone, really. I'm going to try to take it back a little bit here. Location-wise,
I'm telling you, we're going to get our first hate mail maybe from this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who would be defending that, but in and around the town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, of course, in the late 60s. But we will be, of course, talking about Chicago and Wisconsin and beyond. Also included today is Russian England flap, because there's also associated with Mothman. There's some Fukushima stuff. Other encounters with Big Hoot kind of creep into this one.
There's Fukushima stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it shows up before disasters. We'll get into that.
Well, I knew that, but I didn't know specifically Fukushima.
Yeah, I do. But I back to the Mothman thing, I do take exception to the whole thing. And I think the end result was a very bizarre sculpture down in Point Pleasant where it doesn't match eyewitness accounts. He had to make it look more like moth-like. So this strange statue was unveiled. And after seeing that, I just, what do you call it when you end a project and you stick it in a crate? You
mothball it.
Yeah, we should
I see what you did there.
The Mothman thing there. Hey, I have an idea. How about we switch the standing in the corner statue with the Mothman statue? Both towns would get a great laugh, maybe even drop the charges on us.
That would be
Glenn Fry down in Point Pleasant and Mothman for no reason in Winslow. I think that'd be awesome.
Oh my God, that'd be so funny.
Yeah, I think we've
that'd
got
be the
a
greatest
project.
prank ever. That'd be so funny and so hard to pull off.
Yeah,
maybe we can get David Copperfield.
There we go.
Come back and do one more big thing for us.
Yep. Or Chris Angel. But what about the...
David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty or some crap disappear. He made crazy stuff disappear and move around.
Yeah.
Elephants.
He would be the guy.
Yeah, he would be the guy to make two statues 2,000 miles apart, switch places all of a sudden. He would be the guy for that, I think.
We'll get on that. But here's the thing. This owl, we finally have a really big owl flap. It's a giant owl, and we go moth here. Back to West Virginia for a minute, too. We're kicking around for a chunk of tonight's episode. We'll be hanging around in that area. But here's John Keel to kind of get us our feet wet here, our talons wet. The Indians must have known something about West Virginia. They avoided it. And I have also heard this from a West Virginian when I was in the Morgantown area and spent a few days down in West Virginia with a buddy of mine. He said the same thing.
The entire place?
Yeah, he said that he basically said that area really wasn't settled by Native Americans. Like they avoided West Virginia. Like every other area they took over and they kind of stayed away from that for the most part.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wonder what's hiding in their caves. They got a lot of caves, don't they? West Virginia?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is a creepy, spooky place, actually. And I spent a strange weekend out there where my friend never actually showed up. We found out later because he was in jail.
Nice.
So his door was open, so we kind of hung out all weekend, but quiet, nothing on, just in a spooky little cabin out in the West Virginia. Nobody showed up, and I was like, whoa, it was weird.
Feel like a criminal hiding out or something.
Didn't
Someone
have anything
else's
else
place.
happen.
They're not even there.
No conjuring demons or anything like that, but it was an interesting weekend for sure.
Why didn't you conjure any demons? You're in a cabin in the woods, man.
I know. I feel it.
You didn't find any books bound in human skin or anything?
Nothing like that. No. We looked.
Reel-to-reel recordings of people reading weird words? No, nothing?
Nothing like that, no. But they do have a Mothman festival down there, Mothman Museum. You know the moth statue in question, right? You've seen that?
Everybody takes their picture with its butt.
Yeah, there you go.
It's all about the Mothman's butt now. There you go. They've made it a joke, Moz. I'm not sure if I appreciate that very much.
Makes us sad. But there's mothmanmuseum.com if you're interested in hitting that yearly festival or checking out that place. And I wanted to update our kind of spooky list a little bit because John Keel kind of adds to where we find monstrous things. Nick Redfern always talks bridges, tunnels, and water. Linda Godfrey added cemeteries, deserted buildings, campgrounds, or military bases. Rosemary Ellen Guiley adds portals and thin spots. John Keel, today's highlight author, crossroads and garbage dumps and ley lines, he adds. I found those that he mentioned. Of course, I always add geomagnetic anomalies and geological deposits and power lines, bingo parlors, monsters tend to hang around bingo parlors.
Bingo. I got bingo.
There you go. And basically the description of Mothman, if we search the Mothman flap in general, you find a triangle with the 3 points being kind of flying humanoid, owl, and bat.
Did you find another vortex?
No, these threes tend to keep coming up, and I think we're going to come back to that when we get to Clellan's work. But I find a lot of threes. We were talking about the Yeti. I think we talked about this, right? It's bear, gorilla, and wild man. Even Lewis and Nelson's work with the Wendigo, they find that there's three different creatures that they seem to all fall into these three categories all the time. I don't know why, but that seems to be a thing.
Everything's always a trinity, man. No matter where you look, it's always threes.
Yeah.
Everything's threes everywhere.
Yeah, I do crack the Clellan code, so we're going to talk about that next week and solve some. Well, the next time. Next time I run an episode, so a few episodes from now. But again, we have this creature teacher piece. We have these threes. For the Mothman, it is the threes. It's the flying humanoid, the owl, and the bat. Now, that's not all of them because there's gargoyle and there's some more bat squatchy type things. But generally, they fall into three main categories. But if we're talking about Point Pleasant, and we're talking specifically about that 66, 67 flap that crescendoed with the collapse of the Silver Bridge, I think we have more owl-like creature most of the time being reported, and similar descriptions are found with the contemporary Cornwall incident, as we shall see. It's also a Russia Mothman flap. The most sightings seem to be around the greater Chicago area, O'Hara Airport in particular, as we will find out. But not as many bat-like wings are described, but they do get thrown into the mix from time to time. Reports vary, usually 6 to 7 foot creature, 10 to 12 foot wingspan, but again, all over the map with bigger, taller, and bigger wings.
And 12-foot wingspan, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not that much bigger. It's just at the edge of what's considered a Thunderbird because we start to end around 10 feet for the Condor and the Eagle. And then you start to get to 11 or 12, you start to pick up on the Thunderbird side of life.
Right, I got you. It's a small giant.
Yeah.
It's almost huge.
Yep. We already covered the monstrous owl mythos itself, as well as Big Hoot, a giant man-eating owl. And last time we did Lechuza, the witchy woman owl. Not unlike our skin
walkers.
Yep. But again, I had a hard time teasing out the just giant owl sightings from the more shapeshiftery or humanoid or witchy owl-themed ones. They all kind of overlap again. Getting things into its buckets proved difficult. I think Mothman 2 fits more into the cryptoid camp, as he is often described as more humanoid in appearance. Refresher, cryptid is something you can throw a net over. Cryptoid, a little bit more chimeric and therianthropic and maybe something shapeshiftery, exactly. Largest known species living today in the region, as we talked about in Big Hoot, is about 5 feet in the North American area. The Eurasian eagle owl, Bobo, can reach that big, but the Blakiston's fish owl, Bobo blakistoni, can sometimes top 6 feet, which is pretty monstrous.
Wow.
And again, for review, the largest known species from the fossil record is the Orna megalonyx, which likely didn't fly at all, but it stood 3 feet 7 inches tall. It's not that long ago with the later Dryas or whatever. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm talking over. Which you say is was more emu-like or ostrich-like, flightless bird, most likely, because of the size of the wings.
Yeah, they found that's what was really hard to find what they estimated the wingspan to be, because they seem to be stunted, more stunted wings compared, and they have very tall legs, so part of their height is in these.
It sounds almost ostrichy.
Yeah,
like a smaller ostrich.
Yeah, but still like ferocious kind of critter.
Oh, I wouldn't want to run across it.
This is closer to a dinosaur than an owl in some ways.
The little guys that kill the guy in Jurassic Park there, the little guy, the little raptors that just they swarm you.
Exactly. But the Mothman is obviously a little bigger than what we're talking about, more man-sized. Commonality of sightings, sound, it's usually a silent flyer like we talked about. Height and weight, 6 to 9 feet generally, but sometimes it counts even bigger. As we said, wingspan 10 to 12 feet, sometimes bigger. Eyes large, red like reflectors. Owls have particularly red eyes due to some extra blood vessels, or 420 to Yuma. Another episode we had. Color, it's dark out when spotted, but usually described as gray to black. But again,
I'm sorry, 420 to Yuma, episode 53.
Dang, that's good. But it's dark out. This is back to color. We're talking black and grays most of the time. You know, you do get your browns in there, but darker colors. This is usually seen at night. No odor specific to Mothman that I could find. Locomotion speed, flies as fast as cars. Sometimes one of the famous chase scenes was a 100-mile-an-hour chase with this thing. But other unique features, potential power of prophecy, as we shall see, going back to our owl mythos stuff. As for Mothman encounters, we're starting in Point Pleasant and hitting more of a quick review because most of you have heard of all these. So I want to hit the main sightings and those related occurrences that piqued my initial interest, and then move to the Mothman more of today. Does he have a job? Does he have kids yet? How is he polling against Trump or Harris? That kind of thing. But the first sighting comes from some grave diggers on November 12, 1966, who reported a man-like shadow flying overhead as they worked. Here's the account. Is she to be buried a Christian burial when she willfully seeks her own salvation? I tell thee she is, therefore make her grave straight. The crowner hath sat on her and finds it a Christian burial. Oh, you're looking at me.
What the hell just happened?
Oh, that's Shakespeare. Wait, that's the wrong. That's Hamlet. Never mind. So,
nay,
but hear you, good man Delver. I'm not going to do anymore. Fine, that's not how it starts. But no one seems to highlight the fact that what is believed to be the harbinger of doom, Mothman, one of the greatest cryptids in recent history, who ultimately warns of the Silver Bridge disaster a year later, Mothman, the whole buzz started with gravediggers seeing it. I mean, how cool is that in a way?
Gravedigger?
Yeah, no one actually points to the fact that, hey, it was gravediggers who first saw this thing.
Wow.
The first account of the whole flap, the main flap.
Making sure they were digging the holes.
Yeah, owls portend or what? I mean, that just, I don't know
That's
why people
so
don't kind of
odd.
highlight that a little bit.
Well, and it's always put forth as a portender.
Yeah.
Which to me is like, how do you not connect that to owl?
Yeah. I mean, people say it's a gravedigger sighting. They go over it, but no one says, hey, it's a gravedigger sighting. That's
yeah,
the
that
first
definitely,
one.
that detail definitely got by me.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the 1966 account, or the main ones at least, to make up the key Mothman sightings. Let me say that again. But here's the 66 accounts, or the main ones at least, to make up this initial Point Pleasant flap. So back to Clenendon, West Virginia, November 12, 1966, where several gravediggers, not from Elsinore, describe a brown humanoid swooping above their heads while they worked. But this truly marks the very first sighting, which is, I still think that's kind of amazing.
That's cool.
This brings us to the Scarberries and the Malletts, and that's two couples, that a very famous sighting who came across this thing. 4 teenagers who tried to outrun Mothman in Point Pleasant on November 5th, 1966, at speeds in excess of 100 miles, where the creature is clawing at the roof as they're trying to lose this thing. It's a crazy chase scene with quite the harrowing escape. Wow. I believe without this encounter, we don't have quite the flap that we do today. I mean, there's a lot of great sightings, and I don't want to minimize them, but this was the one that everyone kind of talks about. Right. The famous first run-in where everybody started to talk about this thing. This one really got the old bet spheres rolling, so to speak. Then we have Wamsley Bennett Thomas sighting. The next big sighting came from Raymond Wamsley, Marcella Bennett, and Ricky Thomas, who said they saw the same creature near the old abandoned TNT factory. This is that plant just north of Point Pleasant where everyone goes today to look for Mothman, if you've ever seen one of those little shows on it. Then there's the Thomas Urey sighting. Here's John Keel covering the Thomas Urey sighting. Brings Jeremy to our first reading.
At 7:15 a.m. on November 25th, 1966, a young shoe salesman named Thomas Urey was driving along Route 62 just north of the TNT area when he noticed a tall, gray, man-like figure standing in a field by the road. Suddenly it spread a pair of wings, Urey said, and took off straight up like a helicopter. It veered over my convertible and began going in circles 3 telephone poles high. He stepped on the gas as the creature zoomed down over his vehicle. It kept flying right over my car even though I was doing about 75. Mr. Urey sped into Point Pleasant and went straight to the sheriff's office, thoroughly panicked. I never saw anything like it, he confided to Mrs. Heyer later. I was so scared I couldn't go to work that day. This thing had a wingspan every bit of 10 feet. It could be a bird, but I certainly never saw one like it. I was afraid it was going to come down right on top of me. The old familiar symptom, reasonable terror, took hold of him. I've never had that feeling before, a weird kind of fear, he said. That fear gripped you and held you. Somehow, the best way to explain it would be to say that the whole thing just wasn't right. I know that may not make sense, but that's the only way I can put into words what I felt.
And again, from Keel's Mothman Prophecies. We'll be talking a lot about that book today. Go ahead.
It keeps reminding me of Bat Squatch.
Yeah.
And they're such similar kind of creatures in a way.
In a way.
That is Bat Squatch really just an owl?
Well, they have so many, when we cover Bat Squatch, so many primate-y features. But that does show up in some of these as well.
The owl puts on a disguise of a primate kind of thing, but it's actually just an owl. That would make more sense to me than it actually being what it appears to be.
Yeah, primate getting off the ground. We talked about the logistics of that during Bat Squatch.
But if it was really an owl, that would make more. This thing went straight up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sounds like a Bat Squatch story, except it looks like an owl.
Yeah. Yeah. And that doesn't make a lot of sense from a physics standpoint either.
Yeah.
Next account is Connie Carpenter's account. This also from John Keel's Mothman Prophecy and Jeremy's second reading.
Oh. According to her story, Connie, a shy, sensitive 18-year-old, was driving home from church at 10:30 a.m. on Sunday, November 27th, 1966, when, as she passed the deserted greens of the Mason County Golf Course outside of New Haven, West Virginia, she suddenly saw a huge gray figure. It was shaped like a man, she said, but was much larger. It was at least 7 feet tall and very broad. The thing that attracted her attention was not its size, but its eyes. It had, she said, large, round, fiercely glowing red eyes that focused on her with hypnotic effect. It's a wonder I didn't run off the road and have a wreck, she commented later. As she slowed, her eyes fixed on the apparition. A pair of wings unfolded from its back. They seemed to have a span of about 10 feet. It was definitely not an ordinary bird, but a man-shaped thing which rose slowly off the ground, straight up like a helicopter, silently. Its wings did not flap in flight. It headed straight toward Connie's car, its horrible eyes fixed to her face. Then it swooped low over her head as she shoved the accelerator to the floorboards in utter hysteria.
This is almost like it's a large thing flapping, and I know they're silent flyers, but it almost doesn't make sense. It's back to that.
This goes a little beyond just the silent flight thing, though. I mean, they're just going straight up with no flapping.
Yeah. It's not making a ton of sense.
That's a little beyond. Like owls flap to get going. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like they definitely coast and they silent flight and stuff. It's cool what they can do, but they can't just put out their wings and go straight up without flapping.
I've never seen the ones in our neighborhood doing that.
The only thing I've seen do that is like in movies when angels are around.
Yeah.
They put out the wings and just go up.
Yep. But moving past the first string of events, there's a Marshall University plane crash in 1970 that some attribute to Mothman. That this occurred in Canova, West Virginia. Connection's kind of sketchy at best. There's also a similar creature appeared in Cornwall, England, known as Owlman. We mentioned this in the Big Hoot episode, but worth a recap. It started with an account of a giant owl sitting on top of a church in Maonan, and here's good old Wikipedia. Sporadic claims of Owlman sightings in the vicinity of the church circulated in 1978, 79, 89, and 95. And according to legend, a loud owl-like sound could be heard at night in the Mullion churchyard during the year 2000 as well.
What were those years again?
78, 79, 89, 95.
95, and we had the 66. And then what'd you say after that?
2000, there was another big noise of an owl sound kind of thing.
I felt like that was an important note to take. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all good. That's Owlman, Wikipedia. Then in 78 comes a really cool one you might not have heard of, actually. There's a Deutschland, a German account, and this from 1428elm.com. On September 10th, 1978, a group of miners in Germany reported seeing a creature that fits the Mothman criteria. According to witnesses, the creature with piercing red eyes was at the entrance of the mine. Stunned at what they were witnessing, the creature let out a howl that sent those in the mine running out in terror. An hour later, the miners reported seeing a huge plume of dust, feeling a rumble, and then the mine collapsed. The encounter is known as the Freiburg Shrieker, which saved the lives of many who would otherwise have been in the mine. So essentially, ties right into the portendy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Got this thing showing up right before a collapse, saving countless or dozen lives or something like that.
Ties into episode 52 as well with Trenton, the rake encounter story. A lot of things come up from mines.
Yeah.
And caves and whatnot.
Yeah, the Van Meter visitor.
It feeds a lot in Bat Squatch coming out of the volcanoes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a lot of underground stuff. This is really where the whole Hollow Earth thing comes into play. Is there are so many big creatures that seem to come up from underground.
But most cause havoc. This one seems to have this other portenty piece. One of our Oz files.
The owls are the cops, right?
Yeah, the owls are the cops.
Yeah, they're the parliament. They're the lawmakers and enforcers.
That's right, and in this case, also the warners. So, and in 1986, there are accounts of Mothman sightings before and after the Chernobyl power plant meltdown, which are attributed to the Black Bird of Chernobyl, or to the falling asleep on the job of one Homer J. Simpson. I don't think we should rule that out. But here's another read for Jeremy's third reading from anomalien.com, ANOMALIEN.com.
Beginning in early April of 1986, the people in and around the little-known Chernobyl nuclear power plant began to experience a series of strange events, revolving around sightings of a mysterious creature described as a large, dark, and headless man with gigantic wings and piercing red eyes. People affected by this phenomena experienced horrific nightmares, threatening phone calls, and first-hand encounters with the winged beast which became known as the Black Bird of Chernobyl. Reports of these strange happenings continued to increase until the morning of April 26, 1986, when at 1:23 a.m., was it really 1:23 a.m.?
There you go.
Reactor...
Another Cleland number.
Oh my goodness. When at 1:23 a.m., Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant suffered a catastrophic steam explosion that resulted in a fire, which caused a series of additional explosions, followed by a nuclear meltdown. The power plant, located near Pripyat, Ukraine, Soviet Union, spewed a plume of radioactive fallout which drifted over parts of the Western Soviet Union, Eastern and Western Europe, Scandinavia, the UK, Ireland, and Eastern North America. Wow, it got all the way over here.
And yeah, that from anomalien.com again.
And really, it was 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and Reactor 4 exploded. Like, come on, dude. 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4 is what we're going to be talking about with Cleland's, and it's basically Von France's numbers in time, and some of the stuff we're going to be talking about with relation to owls and the UFO abductees. That's all coming soon. So,
are owls just numbers?
I partly cracked the code potentially. So I don't know. Maybe other people have. I always find out that some other people have the same idea.
I'm looking forward to it, and I have built an ahu guano that might not help at all.
Wow, that's terrific! Can't wait. And in the 1990s, Donald I. North reported seeing Mothman in the same TNT area, Point Pleasant, or is believed to have resided back in the 60s. Cryptid author great Brad Steiger then adds a 2005 Tennessee sighting to the mix from one Sandra Nichols, a paranormal and UFO researcher herself, who in a very detailed and meticulous fashion described a Mothman drive-by, which begs the question, did Mothman work for the Mafia? I don't know. But
it kind of makes sense.
It does. Although Nichols claims the creature she saw roughly resembled the Point Pleasant Mothman, she described it as somewhat more of a devilish figure standing on the side of the road. In 2008, the same woman, Sandra Nichols, got to see the creature in flight. She was traveling south on Interstate 65, south of Nashville, when she followed this giant winged thing that she again very meticulously describes. This from Steiger's Real Monsters, Gruesome Critters, and Beasts from the Darkside, Jeremy's fourth reading.
The color of the creature's body was black, and from the neck down appeared as kite-shaped. Its head was a rounded diamond shape and oversized. Its arms were extended outward, its hands at an 8 and 4 o'clock position away from its body, on a horizontal line with its waist. A dark, solid web-like material similar to a bat's web extended from both wrists along the arms to the armpits, then continued downward along both sides of the body, past the waist to halfway between the knees and the feet.
And again from Brad Steiger's Real Monsters, Gruesome Critters, and Beasts from the Darkside.
I now see the moth reference, though, because like a filamenty sort of wing structure like that.
This almost has a squirrel suit feel to it to me. There could be another explanation potentially.
Get your wingsuit on.
There you go. And are some of these now moth flying humanoids actually people jumping off mountains?
I know, now it's a real question, right?
Yeah.
Not in 1966, though.
True.
The people who were doing that then were very few, and a lot of them were dying.
True.
Because they didn't
But
really figure it out yet.
This one was 2005, so it could have been a squirrel suit.
This was 2005.
Yeah, the Sandra Nichols one. There's a couple of them more recent.
Add that to my notes.
The I-35 Minnesota bridge collapse in 2007 is associated with Mothman. Here's the singular Fortean Society covering the issue. Jeremy's fifth reading.
13 people died and 145 were injured when the bridge on Interstate 35 in Minneapolis, Minnesota gave way during rush hour on August 1st, 2007. After the disaster, some people claimed to have seen a Mothman-like creature near the bridge about a month prior to its collapse. Unlike the collapse of the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, reports of the creature came in only after the tragedy had occurred. There was no preceding buildup of paranormal phenomena that culminated in the calamity. Skeptics think that this may be a trick of human memory, and people's minds are twisting sightings of a large heron or crane into that of the ominous monster. But believers are beginning to wonder if perhaps Mothman and similar flying humanoids aren't, in fact, paranormal portents of upcoming catastrophes.
And that from Mothman and the Minnesota bridge collapse, the singular Fortean Society, in the show notes.
Every time you make me read something, it gives me another thought. What if Bat Squatch was actually flying around just before the volcano exploded? And not just after, trying to warn people.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thought.
Yeah. They seem to be after with Bat Squatch. I mean, we can go back and look at our own notes.
It definitely does seem that way, but, that just might mean we didn't see it.
Yeah, it was
before.
trying. It's like, hey, guys. Hey, everybody.
They might be enemies. This might be like a
Pokemon.
Godzilla King Kong thing with the Bat Squatch and the owl.
Maybe.
I'm going to have to write another Ahu Guano for the next owl episode because I already have one for this one.
Yeah, you said you did your homework, which is so rare in and of itself.
I actually did my homework.
That's crazy. And in 2011, there were sightings of a Mothman near the Fukushima power plant before the earthquake and subsequent tsunami. One Marcus Pools saw the red-eyed fiend on top of one of the plant buildings that circled the area before taking off. Here's the story as recounted on the website Afterburner 1 and Jeremy's sixth reading.
I looked toward the plant, and against the lights of the plant, I thought I saw a figure silhouetted against the moonlit sky. The figure was large and black. From the distance I was at, it looked to be sitting on top of one of the squared-shaped buildings. It sat there for about 5 seconds. Then it unfurled a large set of what I could only describe as large black wings. The only reference I can compare them to are from the old John Travolta movie Michael, where the main character unfurls his wings and spreads them out to their full length. To say that this creature was large was an understatement. The creature then took flight and circled the plant at least 4 to 5 times. Some circuits he took at a fast pace, some he seemed to slow down. All the while, he kept his attention on the row of square-shaped buildings that I later found out housed the reactors. The creature then came toward us, flying at least 25 to 30 feet off the ground. The younger couple who had noticed the creature first were now screaming and cowering, the man shielding the woman while shielding his head with a jacket. My friend and I looked in awe as this creature flew over us. That's when I noticed the two large red eyes. They seemed to glow from within with a blood-red hue. They were unblinking in the 3 to 4 seconds we saw them. We knew they were looking straight at us. We knew this creature knew we could see it, and it made no attempt to disguise itself. The sick, intense, and overwhelming feeling of dread came over us. A feeling that we shouldn't be there was, to say the least, overwhelming.
That from afterburner1.com in the show notes. Funny how you had the same reaction of the unfurling angel wings.
The angels, yeah. Travolta and Michael, he's playing an archangel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he does that. He opens the wings and he just goes straight up.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Like, same reference.
But a Scully muggle could say you just read through your readings and then you saw that already.
I read a lot of social science, and what it teaches me is my brain does not work like most people's.
That's good, because most people's don't work.
I'm reading one of those books right now, and I read them to help me understand how other people work.
Nice.
So I can actually communicate with society.
Yeah. So you can. I think you do a good job. I think the social workers are really helping.
I'm in a
probation officer.
I'm in a very comfortable place on the
effort.
spectrum. Let's just put it that way. I'm in a very comfortable place on the spectrum.
Yeah. Yep. No argument from this side of the microphone.
Highly functional, I think, is what they would call me.
Yeah. But the biggest flop, even way bigger account-wise than Point Pleasant, is what's happening in Chicago and some surrounding states. The Singular Fortean Society, again, covered the Mothman accounts from Michigan, Indiana, Missouri, and Wisconsin, dating all the way back to 1957. And after reviewing these, it looks like about 172 sightings are listed in this group. Some witnesses report multiple sightings. Some accounts had more than one witness, sometimes more than one creature. And some were reported by people in some official capacities or another, of some type. Night watchman at O'Hare Airport, or several security guards, or a firefighter. I would also note Point Pleasant had more of an owl feel to it, and Chicago does tend to get battier. There were some owl descriptions, but more bat-like for most. Some were smaller, furrier, more bat-squatchy. Most seemed big. 7 feet tall was a common description for size-wise. A couple looked more like pterosaurs, or even a couple were more gargoyle-like, which is pretty cool.
Gargoyle.
Yeah, gargoyles and gargoyles. But is it the same thing? Most accounts are dark red eyes, flying humanoid, a couple of yellow eyes, and one green-eyed as well, which is odd.
That reminds me, I do believe that the bat squatch is reported with yellow eyes, not red.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would distinguish it.
Yeah. We often with eyes, red's the most common, yellow's the second most common. Anything else is a kind of an odder, kind of, like the green one is an odd.
No, the otters are up with the Tlingit.
Yeah, that's true. That's in Alaska with the Kushtaka. Well
Episode 24.
But I would say, reviewing the accounts, almost all were dark-winged and red-eyed. That's kind of the biggest commonality. 2018, there are two accounts a day apart in January where both witnesses, separate sightings, describe something very owl and bat-like, kind of a hybrid. A lot of reports seem to center in and around O'Hare Airport, as I said, which many of you may be aware. Could be a vengeance spirit of those who had very long layovers there in O'Hare Airport. I mean, we've all been there. Right?
Yeah.
Just a theory.
I've never got stuck in O'Hare, but I can sympathize.
This group created a timeline of events between 1957 and the present of that area of the U.S., but the 57 account is vague, and every other sighting occurs after the Point Pleasant flap. So it does seem to me that Mothman headed northwest. Again, these sightings hit up that old triangle of flying humanoid, owl, or bat. Reviewing the Fortean Mothman accounts, this is my summary of their efforts, which is also, at least the Fortean account is in the show notes. Bat-like wings were by far the most reported type of wing, at least 2 to 1 over every other type, followed by simply flying humanoid. Then owl was third, then devilish demonic, then gargoyle, then pterodactyl or prehistoric bird-like, then more monkey or bat squatch-like. A couple were more insectoid as well, and 1 deer bat, which sounds kind of New Jersey devil-y in a way.
Is it a not deer bat?
Not deer bat, yeah, I guess so. And one report, September 5th, 2011, describes a dark flying creature with tentacles dragging behind it, kind of Monongal or Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Take your pick there.
I'm going Monongal.
There you go. So singularfortean.com, that it will be in the show notes. But we have an exclusive you won't hear anywhere else, an account from 2020. This sighting took place in Lawson State Forest in Northern California. 2 people in a truck. And this is an Us File. So we'll be talking more about this one coming up in our Us File episode.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, we have, yeah. That's exciting. That's in a few weeks.
Yeah. But the driver drew me a picture of this, and it looks just like an upside-down, giant Mothman-y, glowing red eyes. This is a person not familiar with Mothman either, by the way. This account is a good fit for Harbinger of Doom because it actually slowed her down, and she didn't hit a bunch of elks that were around the corner. She actually stopped to look at this thing and kind of didn't barrel around the corner and fly into a bunch of elk. But some of these details are omitted. We're going to go into this in more detail when we talk Cleland, because it even fits that one even better than Mothman Harbinger. You might be saying, how is that possible? Well, stuff gets pretty weird. More to come on that. Highlight feature stories, a note on the overall flatback in Point Pleasant. As many of you know, it was covered by the work of John A. Keel and the book that would ultimately be called The Mothman Prophecies. Or cinema-wise, Richard Gere as John Keel, as Fox Mulder in The Mothman Always Rings Twice or something like that. But basically, I do remember watching The Mothman Prophecies back in the day and then forever swearing off Richard Gere movies. But now the book started off like a as I expected, Creature of the Week, X-File type episode, and slid expectedly and quickly into alien abductions, Men in Black, artificial insemination, alien-human hybrid, Smoking Man, The Lone Gunman, Dogs and Cats Living Together, Mass Hysteria. If you have never read it, it starts off with a lot of the accounts we just talked about,
right?
And then John Keel, just all kinds of weirdness just kind of breaks out all over town.
He just starts riffing.
Well, I think the town started riffing. I really do think a lot of weirdness was going on in that town at that time.
Oh, so it turned into an area effect. Huh?
Yeah, it turned into, it's like almost Wetacoy, where it was just fear contagion and phobia and madness. Everybody was reporting different weird things on that year, and everything kind of stopped at the end when the bridge collapses. But the build up to that year was kind of a crescendo of craziness.
Right. It's like that Twilight Zone episode where all the power goes out.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they end up shooting the guy.
Yep. But Keel explored. Go ahead.
No, that's all I had. I was trying to think of the name of it. I watched it recently. I can't think of the name of it. Old business.
There you go. But Keel explored the Mothman flap in real time, spending many weeks in Point Pleasant interviewing locals, ducking Men in Black. The Keel version of the accounts of the monster quickly morphs into UFOs, UAPs, Thunderbirds, poltergeist phenomenon, hypnopompic-type accounts, strange equipment malfunctions, phones ringing and beeping, and television sets malfunctioning, especially when UFOs were present, the aforementioned Men in Black activity, and even what would come to be known as flying humanoids reported around that time. Bigfoot was suspiciously absent from this monster mash. I reached out to his agent, who has failed to offer a satisfactory explanation as to why he didn't show up for such a big event. There were even reports of babies crying in houses with no babies. Which is what, Jeremy?
That's very skin
Walker,
like,
or any shapeshifter we
or
talked
really
about.
anything that baits you and try to pull you in to eat your soul or your flesh or whatever it is it eats.
Yep. There's 2 accounts in Keel's book of different women in different houses around the same time who reported babies crying in their own homes. Neither could recall having children. Like woken up in the middle of the night by babies crying in your house and you don't have a baby. It's kind of...
Oh my God.
Both of those accounts
I would move immediately.
Are in the Mothman Prophecies.
This is why I'm getting an RV. This is why I'm getting an RV, so that they just can't keep up with me.
Yeah. Well, we actually had an end of an episode where we kind of heard a baby crying. We did a joke at the end of Skin.
Oh, yeah, Walker's.
I think so.
Yeah.
But before we get into the theories of the Mothman, let's hand our mad Cujos out to Mr. Richard Gere. John Keel.
Richard Gere's getting mad Cujos?
Well, John Keel.
Shouldn't Richard Gere get mad gerbils? Come on, Moz. You knew we would have to go down that road at some point.
That road.
Brought him up.
You're up that road.
I'm sorry. Mr. John Keel, mad Cujos.
Down boy! And I have a request. Can we give a sad kudos to the journalist with that awful name, Mothman? Have you ever done that? What would that look like?
I'll come up with something.
There you go.
Sad kudos. Woof. Who was that for?
The journalist who coined the phrase Mothman, who I think did a disservice to Owl Man.
Okay, I will make a very bad bumper for it then.
Yeah, because I think the Yeti guy who did Abominable, I think that actually adds to the whole mystique of the Abominable Snowman, even though it was a mistranslation. But
Right.
Mothman was just not listening to the counts and coming up with some, I don't know.
Well, I see the
Sad
confusion
moment.
though with all the different types of wing structures and types being reported. It's like I did have that thought while you were reading your last one that, we're sitting here fighting over whether it's an owl or a moth, but most of the accounts make it sound like a bat.
Well, from Chicago, but the Point Pleasant flap is for the most part, is more owl-like.
Okay.
So that 66, 67 flap, mostly owl. Chicago gets a little stranger with this, trinity beyond actually of weirdness.
Okay.
I also heard on Monstrum, Dr. Emily Zarka, that they actually tried to change the name later, referring it to it in the later articles as the Mission County Nightbird. Yeah, that really rolls off the tongue, so that didn't help. And
Mission County Nightbird.
Yeah, it didn't help. Didn't do anything. So it was that was a dud. But let's leave the Keelmeister with the last word on this section before we move on. This is a quote from the Mothman Prophecies again. UFO mania is no different from demon mania. My forms of religious and political fanaticism are linked directly to these other manias and to paranoia and schizophrenia. We are meant to be crazy. It is an important part of the human condition. ... I was clearly meant to blunder into that little town in West Virginia and learn things that some men have known for centuries but were afraid to ask. I warned Sheriff Johnson and Mary Heyer that this was folklore in the making. And that was true dat. Best defense for Mothman? A giant light bulb. Moths are attracted, maybe one of those really powerful ones like from Bell and Howell as seen on TV, because we need a big light to catch a big moth. Strict limit of 3 per order. You go.
That's a thing.
No, the thing was with John Carpenter.
When you see the Mothman costumes, if you really want to do a hardcore Mothman costume, you got to carry your light.
Yeah.
Light goes with it.
Exactly. So do you have a best defense for Mothman?
Flamethrower.
There you go. That could work.
Start a fire. When it comes to fly around the fire, you torch it.
There you go.
I'm bringing a flamethrower.
But again, it's not a moth, so I don't know. I mean, yes, it's still going to work.
A flamethrower.
It's still going to work.
If it's got
not as well, but it's still going to work.
It doesn't matter if its wings have feathers or leather or whatever it may be. It'll burn.
That's true.
It'll burn.
That's true. But some of the common theories, you come across a theory that Point Pleasant is a window or a portal into another dimension. This is definitely a bit of a cluster sighting area, especially for that during that flap. Not just Point Pleasant and the area of West Virginia, but the southeastern portion of Ohio on the other side of the river was also chock full of strange events, paranormal activities, and beastly sightings. So I'm going to call it the Point Pleasant parallelogram. I think it's more, I don't know if it's really.
There you go.
But
it has very thin, placey kind of overtones to it, doesn't it?
It does.
I'm trying not to start a conversation about how they seem very transdimensional.
Yeah.
In my theories. But I'll save that when we get to the theory section. I definitely have some stuff to talk about.
There you go. But here's a theory about the symptoms that witnesses reported and the cluster sightings in general from, again, John Keel. I found witnesses suffered certain medical symptoms such as temporary amnesia, severe headaches, muscular spasms, excessive thirst, and other effects, all of which have been observed throughout history in religious miracles, appearance of religious apparitions, demonology, occult phenomenon, and contacts with fairies. All these manifestations clearly share a common source or cause. So this is John Keel, kind of coming across where we're coming across. And again, he's doing this in the 70s, and we're just getting around to solving all this stuff now. But a lot of people who dive deep into this kind of come back with some similar feelings about all this funness.
If we're in the theory section, you keep bringing me into it, so let's do it. The transdimensional aspect of this, the fairy mentioned right there and whatnot, all those other things just mentioned get tied to thin places and ley lines and whatnot, and all that ties in my mind to transdimensionalism, where these things And it kind of explains why they would look a little different and take these different forms. It's portals to a different plane where creatures look like that. There's a lot of big flying things around, and they slip through the portal. But the portal happens only when the energies and vibrations are right, and that has something to do with disasters occurring on this side of that rift.
Yeah, and my Us file that we'll be discussing, we're going to do, I think, Cleland, and then we have a whole episode of Us files, or vice versa. And mine's very portally cluster sighting-y, and we were partying in the same woods, the same cabin for 20 years, and like nothing ever happened. And 1 year, all hell kind of broke loose.
Yeah.
We'll be discussing that. But it had the same feel. It was kind of portally. And I know that we read this dialogue between, it was Sanders, Ivan T. Sanderson and Lauren Coleman, and how pissed they were to come back to how weird this phenomenon is when they're just looking for monsters. And it annoys zoologists. And when these things happen.
And we talk about all the time, like it's in our tagline, the edge of nowhere, how the liminal spaces, the edges, the places in between.
Yeah.
The sleep paralysis in between sleeping and waking, and the tree lines and the water lines and the sky and the caves, and that they're always on the edges of our perceptions and whatnot. And that to me just feeds into that this whole, you're seeing them when you're almost between the planes, between the worlds, between the dimensions, whatever it might be. And I mean, that's the ultimate liminal space, isn't it? Like literally between worlds.
And between states of consciousness that ties you into these other worlds.
Yeah, there you go. Levels of existence.
Yeah.
Like different level, the space between different levels of existence.
Yep.
Is really the better way to put it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and the last quote from Keel, we went back to medical symptoms that, again, are people are being affected physically by these of moments of being between dimensions or between portals or between states.
So when a bunch of people die, this is really dark, but stay with me here for a second. When a bunch of people all die together, it creates that energy because they're about, all these spirits are about to change planes at the same time from the same place. And it creates this enough energy between the worlds to actually physically open that portal so that not only is their energy going to move through to the other one, but things from the other one can move through to here.
Yeah, and they had that spike.
And time changes, the human perception of time is not what time actually is. Time is a whole, so it could even come through and be here before it happens.
Yeah, we'll talk about next week with Cleland the circularity and how linear and circular time is at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's also those spikes right before, like 9/11. There was a spike of people being upset the day before. And if those spikes of emotion, and if we know things are coming, maybe those spikes are what pierces the veil and allows something to come in and actually manifest as a warning.
I can dig that, Moz.
But the medical symptoms side reminded me of Matt. We had a person we interviewed. We interviewed the other person who was at that event, but Matt was really affected by the rake, and his event actually jolted him and made him feel ill. And that's not uncommon with even like the Hopkinsville goblins. With a lot of those people got sick. There's a lot of people who report having these mystical experiences that actually affected them physically afterwards, for years after.
Yeah, you hear a lot of things like sleeping issues, health issues, and you do almost get, you ran through a bunch of symptoms earlier that people have, and it almost sounds like a certain type of radiation.
Yeah, radiation for the Hopkinsville, for that Kentucky incident, certainly, and sometimes it's more of a jolt of electricity, and that's what almost Matt was more describing, that it seems to throw off your heart, your brain. It seems to be like it's like zapping you, and it's having an impact.
And it's interesting that they do get reported around nuclear incidents. Chernobyl, and you said Fukushima is also on the list here and everything. So it's like, does that type of energy, when that type of event happens, is that opening a portal similar to when a bunch of people die all at once? Just the simple splitting of the atom chain reaction causes that sort of effect in the multiverse, in our dimensional membrane, if you want to go M theory and whatnot. This gets deep, Moz.
Well, I mean, forget the creatures that show up at these places. The UFOs are constantly showing up at silos and power plants.
Well, that plays into
military bases.
That also plays into it because we've gone into my whole Tesseractian craft thing. I really think those UFOs or UAPs or whatever you want to call them, I think, and the science even says, like the theoretical physicists, not that anybody can prove anything on it, but it's more likely that those things are transdimensional than they are interstellar,
right,
or intergalactic,
right,
planetary,
right,
planetary, intergalactic,
yeah,
intergalactic, planetary, intergalactic. Excuse me.
Sound like we're having some kind of
Getting
bizarre.
It's getting a little beastie up in here, Moz. Excuse me.
Well, we'll calm you down with a reading. And this quote, again, comes from John Keel's Mothman Prophecies. My long and very expensive excursions into the borderland, where the real and unreal merge, have failed to produce any evidence of any kind to support the idea that we are entertaining shy strangers from some other galaxy. Rather, I've come to realize that we have been observing complex forces which have always been an essential part of our immediate environment. Instead of thinking in terms of extraterrestrials, I've adopted the concept of ultra-terrestrials, beings and forces which coexist with us but on another time frame. That is, they operate outside the limits of our space-time continuum, yet have the ability to cross over into our reality. This other world is not a place, however, as Mars or Andromeda or places, but it is a state of energy. And that, again, John Keel.
Yeah, spot on, brother.
Yeah, he got a lot of guff for everything that he kind of wrote, and we'll get to that. But at the same time, he had a lot of good insights.
I like when you tell me I'm right, Moz.
Yeah, or you're as crazy as John Keel. One or the other.
That's a smart guy right there.
But here's still Keel theorizing on his own investigation, and he thought that it was being manipulated by unseen forces. And anybody who dives deep in anything, we often see this. But, quote, I was being led to people and cases to support whatever theory I was working on at the time. I tested this by inventing some rather outlandish ideas. Within days, I would receive phone calls, reports, and mail describing elements of those ideas. End quote. So again, it's more of like the collapsing wave. You're looking at it, and we're affecting it.
You can create it just by thinking about it.
Create it.
Make people believe it.
Yep. This one is actually not that different from my ancient tomb theory, except I'm just finding related patterns. Keel's having these patterns confirmed by outside and unknown sources. I have heard other people since, talk about this, from Redfern to Guiley, and I think there's a lot of, weirdness abound.
And it may seem silly, the whole cartoon, ancient tune theory you're building and all that, but it is the patterns, and it's almost a psychological question. Do humans have to tell stories a certain way to find them interesting?
Yeah.
Do we even have a choice in our symbologies, in our, it goes into the free will argument. You know what I mean? Like, do we actually do things because we want to, or are we super pre-wired and time has already happened and we're just going through the motion?
It's a good segue to the mythic side, because I think it is tied into the archetypes, and it's tied into some of these concepts that are shared software, so to speak. So we do have these similar structures and hero's journey stuff kind of popping up through the unconscious into the conscious.
Simulation theory, episode TBD.
There you go.
Probably like season 4. It's going to take a while for me to.
You should know future episodes, because you just said
because time is a whole.
Yeah. So what episode is it then?
I can explain time to you if you want. I think we
don't have the time for that.
I think I actually understand it, but I don't think now's the time.
I think that's going to tie in nicely with Cleland's work. So we have Mary Louise von France and time, numbers and time, and we have owls and numbers.
You just let me know when the time is for me to explain time.
Yeah.
And I will take the time to explain it.
In due time. This, again, the mythic side, owls as harbinger of doom, was covered extensively in our monsters and owl mythos. If you missed that one, that kind of kicked off this owl arc. And here we have an owl harbinger of doom, not just in Point Pleasant, like other places, though, that, basically an us file, because this is a family member who had such a warning, which also ties into my upcoming owl guano theory. Why does it keep coming back to Carl Jung and symbolism and archetypes? I don't know. But Cleland's does too, again. In a very interesting kind of way. I personally didn't give that much credence to the whole Mothman as a warning, but amidst a deep dive into the global owl mythos, we find this same portent warning theme everywhere throughout the collective unconscious. Be a family member who at the time of this event was Mothman naive had a visitation warning sighting that likely saved her life. I can't make this up. I could, but I didn't. In fact, I swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me Godzilla. But fun fact, after this year's bridge collapse in Baltimore, I did say this in another episode, I believe. I Googled Mothman sightings at the Baltimore bridge collapse. And the website was like, we're getting inundated with questions about Mothman, and they said at that time they didn't have any, but they were still kind of looking. Yeah. But I thought I'd be the only goober kind of asking that question. But I guess there's a lot of paranerdalists out there.
Yeah, it's huge in the subculture now.
Yeah,
like, it was the most popular Halloween costume last year amongst the paranormalist, subculture was Mothman. Mothman's just huge right now.
Yep.
And it's in the mainstream. It's in the pop culture. No.
But Mothman did annoy, again, I want to mention this part of the theory. Mark A. Hall, he's the Thunderbird Whisperer. He has a great book on Thunderbirds. And he mentions in his Big Hoot, I mentioned this in the Big Hoot episode, but he mentions how there were all these booger owl sightings up and down these areas, up and down this river, and around Point Pleasant. And as soon as it became Mothman, all the large owl sightings kind of went away. We switched from owl to moth, and that did kind of annoy him, as it annoys me. From a similar vein, Mothman stepped on all the other strange occurrences that make the greater Point Pleasant area a sighting cluster, and perhaps the real reason for all the hootla in that area is ongoing is, that is a Native American curse. So we do have another Native American curse.
There you go.
So there is a shamanic shitsnick piece to this. We already discussed Bridgewater Triangle and King Philip's War. We found a black sachem, a dark shaman, Tospaquin at the center of the bloody conflict with colonial forces.
That's, now we find Bridgewater Triangle, episode 32.
We find the same story here with a Chief Cornstalk, who Keel mentions as a Shawnee shaman, who in the 1760s placed a curse on the whole area as well. I think he said, your statues will always be silly or something. I think that was the curse.
May your statues have large butts.
There you go. But Keel and others, here's Keel in a related quote.
Keel and others interviewed a number of people in the little community of Gallipolis Ferry, a couple of miles south of Point Pleasant on Route 2, and I had been impressed by their testimony. House lights frequently dimmed there, and television sets often acted up late at night. Great blobs of light had been seen on top of the wooded hills in the sparsely settled animal preserve called the Chief Cornstalk Hunting Grounds just south of the village. One resident was having trouble with poltergeist phenomenon. Lights moving through his house, rappings on the doors and windows, the sounds of babies crying and women screaming. Telephones malfunctioning, the works. Rolf Lee, a farmer with a big spread in the area, confessed that he had seen so many UFOs over his land that he didn't pay attention to them anymore.
And that from the Mothman prophecies again in the show notes.
Dude, there's a fleet of flying saucers over your backfield. Yeah, they're there all the time. It's fine. They're fine. Don't even worry about that.
Yeah, we actually have the two...
And very poltergeisty, man. The TV's getting weird at night.
Yeah.
Orby things.
Carol Ann.
And stuff rattling around and whatnot. That's super poltergeisty.
But I thought was interesting is it's both women screaming and babies crying, which is the two lures of the shapeshifter, and they're there as well. That trope makes this note.
Well, that I think is just lets you know that it's a predatorial cryptid,
right?
Like they're actually hunting you.
Potentially. I don't know what the.
It's a lure, It's like putting the worm on the hook for the fish, man.
Yeah.
That's what the baby crying is. The woman screaming, the baby crying. It's all just a lure. They're trying to bring you in so they can eat your soul or your flesh or whatever it is they feed on.
Well, a lot of
I
deaths
just got crazy deja vu
are associated with the Mothman thing, and actually Lauren Coleman has a death count over on his website Cryptomundo if anybody's interested. So here for this next part, I actually did some digging to find this Chief Cornstalk curse. And I found it in two areas, and I kind of merged them. So there's a quote from the first part, and then there's this, we're going to keep reading. There's a quote. I'll let you know when we switch quotes. But I kind of merged from two sources to get the full story of Chief Cornstalk. if you don't mind reading, and then, like I said, I'll jump in when we switch, just get the show notes right.
As the American frontiersmen began to move west in the 1770s, 7 nations of Indians, the Shawnee, Delaware, Wyandot, Mingo, Miami, Ottawa, and Illinois, formed a powerful confederacy to keep the white men from infringing on their territory. The Shawnee were the most powerful of the tribes, and were led by a feared and respected chieftain called Keetugwa, which translated to mean cornstalk. In 1774, when the white settlers were moving down into the Kanawha and Ohio River valleys, the Indian Confederacy prepared to protect their lands by any means necessary. The nations began to mass in a rough line across the point from the Ohio River to the Kanawha River, numbering about 1,200 warriors. They began to make preparations to attack the white settlers near an area called Point Pleasant on the Virginia side of the Ohio River. As word reached the colonial military leaders of the impending attack, troops were sent in and faced off against the Indians. While the numbers of fighters were fairly even on both sides, the Native Americans were no match for the muskets of the white soldiers. The battle ended with about 140 colonials killed and more than twice that number of Indians. The tribes retreated westward into the wilds of what is now Ohio, and in order to keep them from returning, a fort was constructed at the junction of the Kanawha and Ohio rivers.
And that was from AmericanHauntingSync.com. That's in the show notes. We'll be now switching to 1428elm.com to finish this, also in the show notes.
During a second later attack, the military units were able to convince Cornstalk to a truce to avoid more unnecessary bloodshed. In 1777, Cornstalk alerted the settlers that the British were attempting to get other native tribes to attack the colonists. The tribes then began taking positions on the Ohio River to attack. Cornstalk wanted no part of the attack and went to the fort to alert the cavalry. Cornstalk told them that he did not desire war, but he would make no attempt to stop his men if they chose to partake in the attack. Seeing an opportunity, they held Cornstalk as a prisoner to use as a bargaining chip. The plan worked, and the battle was averted. As Cornstalk was being held in the fort, his son arrived to visit. Meanwhile, 2 members of the fort were out hunting and were ambushed and killed by a native tribe. Enraged, Cornstalk and his son were shot as retribution for the attack. Legend says as he lay dying, Cornstalk placed a curse upon the land. Right before he died, Cornstalk looked at his attackers and said, quote, "I was the borderman's friend. Many times I have saved him and his people from harm. I never warred with you, but only to protect our wigwams and lands. I refuse to join your paleface enemies with the red coats. I came to the fort as your friend, and you murdered me. You have murdered by my side my young son. For this, may the curse of the Great Spirit rest upon this land. May it be blighted by nature. May it even be blighted in its hopes. May the strength of its peoples be paralyzed by the stain of our blood."
And again, AmericanHauntingSync.com was the first part of that, and then it switched to 1428elm.com for that last half.
So are we no longer wondering why West Virginia is so dark and weird to be in?
Yeah, and again, it's one of the ones that, gets mentioned once in a while, but I kind of harp on these things because I don't, I think there's a connection. Let's just put it that way. But Lorne Coleman himself has been tallying the potential Mothman death count over at his own website, cryptomundo.com, which are attributed either to Mothman or Cornstalk's curse. When I looked up the possible death count on his site, it's like 46 or 47 lives lost during the Silver Bridge collapse, but then he has a total of 86 that might be contributed to the Mothman in that area.
Wow.
But hey, let's start a Who Mothman Has Saved list. Because, But he doesn't get any credit for also trying to save folks. And I don't know why, we have this death count We just talked about one today that he saved all the miners in Freiburg, Germany that he saved.
Well, portents, you see, aren't responsible for the death. They're just there. They're actually there to warn you. And if you take the warning properly, you can save yourself.
And this one, because it's set up at the beginning and entrance of the cave, it actually got everyone out and other people didn't go in and no lives were lost as a result.
It's like the S-File you had me tell, I think, in part 1 of this, right? 3 episodes ago, if I remember right. When we were in the Jeep and the owl told me not to go that way.
Yeah.
And we didn't go that way.
Yeah, you might have been saved by an owl that day.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I mean, we wouldn't have gone that way anyway, but if we had thought we were gonna, that thing told me not to before I ever even looked around. I never even saw around that corner. I saw the owl and it was like, don't go that way. And I was like, let's not go that way.
Well, let's start that list of potential owl saves. Let's get it on monsterlore.com.
Yeah. I saved an owl once.
There you see. So that gives you good, that gives you good kudos. There's psychological, on the psychological side of things, I'm in agreement with mass psychogenic illness for this town. Keel discusses this as well. If you're a Paul Levy fan,
something in the water
syndrome. But before I honestly think that this town was really in the grip of fear, and that really, made people kind of a little bonkers, and a lot went on at that time with all that negativity kind of floating around that town.
Right.
But if you stare in the abyss long enough, you plunge into the abyss to the sound of screaming metal on a cold West Virginia night, because that's what happens at the end of this whole thing. The Silver Bridge collapses. And that's really the end of any weirdness. It kind of is this exclamation point at the end of this thing. The thing's hanging around the bridge. It's a final warning. They start to see this thing there, and then
it's just
Christmas
gone.
Eve, boing, a lot of people drop in the water. It was one of the worst bridge disasters in this country's history. And it's kind of an interesting, certainly one of the more interesting recent flaps is the Mothman one, certainly. Other paranormal explanations, Rosemary Ellen Guiley talks Mothman and Men in Black theory, as the Men in Black feature prominently in the initial Point Pleasant. The whole flap really became more about MIB than Owlman,
right?
At least for John Keel. But Guiley claims the Men in Black were less threatening and more trickster-like, and she points out how several residents reported Men in Black visits, and they ended up with debilitating headaches, back to what Keel was talking
that radiation
about.
thing again.
Yep. And Guiley, true to form, also, of course, blames the jinn. She's kind of, I talk shaman, she talks jinn. And this is from the Jinn Connection. Mary Rosemary Ellen Guiley will be in the show notes. In The Vengeful Jinn, I discussed jinn as an explanation for Mothman, who had the characteristics of a curious jinn. The entity followed and spied on people, but never overtly attacked anyone. In early sightings, it seemed confused and even frightened. It's possible that an interdimensional portal suddenly sprang open for a time, and this entity fell through, along with a host of other phenomena. It was stuck on our side until it found its way back.
You're telling me I'm right again, Moz.
There you go. So you're not alone. But here's one of the other strange Men in Black encounters as covered by Guiley. Quote, in January 1967, at the peak of the Mothman wave, journalist Mary Heyer of the Athens, Ohio Messenger, was working with Keel to document the strange activity, was visited by a short man in black, less than 5 feet tall and wearing shoes with enormously thick soles, a frequently reported characteristic. He had weird hypnotic eyes and wore his black hair in a bowl cut. He fixated on Heyer's ballpoint pen. When she told him he could have it, he split into a cackling laugh and zoomed out of the room. Guiley, they're very odd. They have a lot of odd. This Men in Black, very. I got a pen. Yeah. They don't seem of this world when people have encounters with them.
Man, rifts in time and space.
Guiley also talks about a woman, shepherd, who ran ghost tours in town, being stalked by Men in Black. Her first run-in was so she's in Point Pleasant doing ghost tours, this woman, and she had some Men in Black encounters. First run-in was during a book signing she was doing. One time the Men in Black delivered a pizza she ordered, and another time they even showed up for one of her ghost tours and took the tour.
They delivered her pizza?
Yeah. Like she ordered a pizza and the Men in Black arrives.
Oh my God.
I don't think I'd eat that.
They're super tricksters, huh?
I don't think I'd eat that.
Yeah, what'd they put on the pizza?
Exactly. Extra toppings.
So are Men in Black just owls in human disguise? This feeds into my Ajo Guano theory, actually.
There you go. But here's our last, actually, I think we might have some more. But anyway, back to Guiley. Quote, "You are pursuing them, however. They are indeed a target, and they like to periodically remind you that they are watching all the time, even when you think they have gone away. They may play with you, irritate you, thwart you, harass you, even seriously harm you." End quote.
I didn't like that last one.
Here's a guy.
Harassing is one thing. Harming, Yeah. I draw a line. I got to draw a line somewhere with these tricksters, man.
Exactly. Here's Guiley's attempt at an explanation. Quote, "Various possibilities have been put forward to explain Men in Black. Mistaken impressions, imagination, hoaxes, ETs, time travelers, humans from the future, thought forms created by humans, demons, real government officials, tricksters, and unknown entities. Surprisingly, or perhaps not, the jinn are overlooked. ... I too believe that multiple explanations apply to the paranormal. We search for black and white definitive answers and find gray areas instead. Such morphing terrain is well suited to the jinn, who keep humans guessing and looking in all directions instead of straight at them. They hide in plain sight." Yeah. So that's Rosemary Ellen Guiley ginning up the whole Mothman scene.
Yeah, hiding in plain sight. I can't wait for my Ajo Guano theory.
Well, guess what?
Well.
Ajo Guano.
Oh, are we there?
Yeah,
we're there. Theory of the week. Oh no, here it comes.
Quick, to the batshit signal.
You want to go first or you want me to go first?
Oh, you should probably go first.
Okay. So basically my theory, we have this archaic harbinger of doom mythos surrounding the owl. Manifests as a tulpa from a collective unconscious of humanity, releasing a therianthropic harbinger action figure called Mothman right before disasters. But for this one, the Ajo Guano, we get an earlier Mothman sighting from California, which I didn't cover. John Keel lumps this one in with Mothman, and I think it's one of your last readings.
Oh, okay. A year before the first flying saucer scare erupted in the state of Washington in 1947, a group of 16 people in San Diego, California witnessed a strange phenomenon. They were gathered on a rooftop to watch a meteor shower on the night of October 9th, 1946, when a bluish-white winged object appeared in the sky. It looked like an extremely long airplane carrying two reddish lights, and it left a luminous contrail. The strange object was certainly no airplane, one witness told Harold T. Wilkins. The wings, which moved, were too wide for any bird. Indeed, they were rather like the wings of a butterfly. The whole object emitted a red glow. The object was especially conspicuous as it crossed the face of the moon. Some of the witnesses thought it resembled a gigantic bat.
And that is from the Mothman Prophecies, John Keel, in the show notes.
I have a totally different theory on that one.
Well, you can't steal. I'm in the middle of my Ajo Guano theory.
Okay, go ahead.
The bat signal first appeared in Detective Comics in 1942, so the concept was already established. But the folks who set up the bat signal, just like Commissioner Gordon, didn't know Batman's identity, so they set up the signal in the wrong part of the country in California. That's the bat signal prototype that those people witnessed. And, bats, I think it was a prototype.
So the bat signal calls Mothman, who's actually an owl?
Well, I don't think it's...
That really ties the whole bat, moth, owl thing together
yes, well. As long as you think so. I'm going to just go with that then.
Well, it's an Ajo Guano theory.
Yeah, I think they were trying to get Oscar Freeman Stanley. I think we found Batman. I don't think they had the city right. I think it started in California.
Oh, they should have put it over Denver.
Yeah, they got confused.
Yeah.
But that's where the prototype was. They were calling, Oscar Freeman Stanley, who is the prototype for Batman, as we discovered in episode
13. 12/13. It started in 12 and then it finished in 13.
Dang, you are good. You're hard to beat. You really are.
Okay, so this Ajo Guano. Oh, so I figure the owl's been in charge pretty much since the beginning. It's their thing. They're the lawmakers, rule keepers.
The Bible, Sumerian, cave paintings.
Yeah, exactly. But I figure, and tying it into the whole, the portals open when there's a lot of death kind of thing. The boundary gets thinner the more disaster is happening to people. I imagine during the World Wars, the owls kind of, peaked activity during that time with all the madness going on there. But after the World Wars, they saw the New World Order that was forming, and they decided they wanted to get in on that action. And, they had been controlling things using the old ways, but that game was obviously changing. And they set plans to take over more of the world than just, obviously they were already in charge of England.
Right.
For probably time out of mind. Because, up till then, they were basically controlling the world in all those ways we already know about with the colonialism and all that. And, look at King Charles and tell me with a straight face he's not an alien owl in human skin.
And we have the Cornwall Owl Man.
Moz is already laughing.
There you go.
But as any good owl knows, you can't take over human society until you control their minds. And the secret to taking over a human mind, again, as any good owl knows, is music. And specifically, the funk. George Clinton, born on the day the Axis powers invaded the USSR. First album, Maggot Brain, obviously a reference to how they infect us with the unrecognized virus of the word. More on that in my upcoming...
Is this wet echoey?
It's going to come up in my panspermia episode next week. A little foreshadowing for the next episode. Second album, Mothership Connection. Need I say more? The big hit single off Mothership Connection was Tear the Roof Off the Sucker. Now, what would, they want to do that for, Moz? Tear the roof off the sucker.
No idea.
Oh, so the owls can get inside.
Yeah, it's like tearing open the portal.
Yeah, tearing open the portal. Exactly. Thank you. Opening the portal, you see. George Clinton started with the Parliaments.
Which is a group of owls.
Coincidence? Yep. But he was the only actual owl member of the initial band. You have to start somewhere, even if you are a hyperdimensional shape-shifting owl overlord, So it wasn't until he started gathering a true parliament of owl overseer cohorts that he created the project which he'd been dreaming of which he'd been dreaming. That band, of course, Parliament Funkadelic. The plan, rule the funk. One nasty bit of down and dirty funk at a time. And mission accomplished. Because if you want to give me some funk, it better be the P-Funk. Because I want to get funked up, Moz. But this funk comes with alien owl overlord maggot brain infections and getting done all doggy style and shit. That's the funkiest of the funks, by the way. You know what I mean, Moz?
No.
You with me?
I don't know what you mean.
Okay. Al Guano continues. But Funkadelic wasn't the only finger of this hootvasion. See what I did there? Not only did the owls come for our funk, they came to take over the world. Dun, dun, dun! But after the big wars ended and everything cooled off into a boring old Cold War, the invasion started getting a little sloppy. Some of the guys were drinking on the job, which of course led to some pretty nasty DUI type incidents that led to the secret invasion being exposed. I'm pretty sure those alien biologics from they recovered at Roswell were owls with their feathers burnt off.
Wow.
But we can discuss that more after this pile of algal guano I'm constructing.
It was a weather balloon.
That's a whole different pile.
Dang.
Whole different pile of guano, that one.
These piles are getting big.
Then they were like, oh no, we just started our full-on infiltration of the highest levels of all the world's governments, and now everyone's going to know about us. We're doomed. But then the smart guy in the room was like, hold on a minute there, my fellow parliamentarians. I got an idea. How about we roll in the reptilians, put them to work doing our dirties for us? Then if anything goes wrong,
they'll be blamed.
We can just let them burn and carry on unbeknownst to those tasty, tasty meat poaches that call themselves human. Brilliant, his cohort replied. then laughed all evil and sinister like this.
Is that an owl laugh?
So everything you've heard about the reptilians is just a smokescreen created by the owls to blind us to the truth. They create a story so crazy no one will believe it in order to cover up their real story that is so crazy no one would believe it.
Like David Icke.
Example. The theory that the reptilian global headquarters is under Cornville, Arizona, and is accessed through the cave known as Robber's Roost. That sound fishy to you, Moz? Why would lizards choose a cave entrance that more resembles an avian eyrie than a reptilian den?
Well,
what I think is that this cave is the entrance to the dungeon where the owls keep their reptilian slaves, working to maintain the owls' supply of fresh rodents and other tasty tidbits. And if the reptilians fail to breed and herd enough food, or if they try to run, the owls just eat them instead. They are fearsome, horrible beasts indeed, our owl overlords.
I have one hole in that, though. The closest bar to that cave is called the Grasshopper Grill. And that would serve reptilians, not rodents for owls. I always thought that was odd, that there's the vent to the underworld and reptilians, and there's a Grasshopper Grill, which is what they're going to eat.
It's because they're slaves doesn't mean they don't need to eat, Moz.
So okay.
The brilliance is that if we mushy bags of human meat ever choose to properly explore this underground base, we will find the reptilians there in number, harvesting food and showing all signs of being the purveyors of this underground operation, at which point the humans can slaughter the reptilians, convincing themselves the invasion is now over. Nothing left to worry about here, folks. Move along, and the owls carry on with their master plan of taking over the world. Now they control everything, including our minds. Who do you think developed these app-based addiction screens we call phones? The goddamned owl overlords. That's Hoot. That's Hoot. Hoot. Hoot, damn it. I'm getting the hoot out of here and hooting something about it. Ah, hell, I think they've gone and done one of those maggot brains on me. Excuse me, Moz. Excuse me, everybody. I'm sorry about that. No maggots in my brain, I promise. Let me wrap up this ahooly mess I've gotten myself into. In conclusion, the reptilians are just the worker class of our hyperdimensional overlord power structure. It is the owls that are really in charge. It's like George Orwell's Animal Farm, but the reptilians are the dogs and horses, the owls are the pigs, and instead of a farm, it's global governments. And we, of course, are the sheep, simply waiting to be sold to slaughter to the highest bidder. Or maybe the owls will keep us for themselves. Either way, I don't like where this ends, Moz. I don't like where this ends. I'm going to need a couple pints of bitters and a ride on a Vogon construction vessel. You want to join me, Moz? And, do you think that the ET biologics are featherless owls? Let's get back to that.
Some Vogon poetry we can read.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
You know, I have to agree with you on one piece of this as well. The owl seems to be, and we've talked about this, it blocked out. Like you don't even, the owl is not something we can even wrap our head around. We don't talk about them as monsters. Even when we have a monster owl, we call it a moth. It seems to be in our heads, so it's not in our heads. They're making us forget them. And that seems to be a sub-theme of all these episodes, is that they're there, but they're not. They're the scariest, but we don't mention them. We block them out because they're so tied into death.
They're the most horrible of monsters.
And yet.
And you know why? Because they're in charge.
Yeah.
And they don't want us talking about them, so we don't.
It's upsetting. You know, I know you're upset. And you've upset me now. I'm
a little flustered.
Yeah.
I am a little flustered. I'm maybe not the ride on the Vogon ship, but I'm definitely going to need those beers.
You know what would help you?
Oh my God, I'm so flustered. My accent's coming back.
This is going to help you.
Oh my God.
Sir Richard Scully Muggle, Skeptics Review.
Yes, bring me down to earth, Sir Richard Scully Muggle.
You're full of crap, and that's the nicest thing that I can say.
Now this is going to help, because I can just say pareidolia, apophenia, and mass psychogenic illness for every one of these damn segments. And matter of fact, we can record it ahead of time and you just have me playing it and I don't have to say it anymore. What do you think? And we could bust another segment that we seem to be on a roll doing.
You have to record it so that that moment exists, so that it can exist in other moments.
Right. But
you can't time travel without actually doing the thing first.
Yeah, that was, your last bit was kind of a Dr. Hooty thing now that I think about it.
Dr. Hoot. Oh my goodness. Was Doctor Who an owl?
Maybe.
The doctors are owls. That would actually make a lot of sense because they are playing with the space-time and jumping around like that.
But they don't want us to know that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, that show should have been about owls, but our brains won't let us go that route. So we made them people who are actually owls, which is the real life thing that we see as a fiction because they want us to.
I'm with you.
Yikes.
And I don't know why I'm with you.
The skeptics thing didn't fix me, man. It didn't fix me.
Well, back to Mothman. Because of the red eyes and the inability to really nail down the sizes at night, many think this is a barred owl. As for all the reported weirdness in the area, say it with me, kids, mass psychogenic illness. Again, I might be inclined to agree, at least when it comes to the other hysteria and sightings as the whole Mothman flap got kind of more and more intense. As for the reason the Silver Bridge fell, this is Wikipedia again. Quote, official investigations in 1971 determined it was caused by stress corrosion cracking in an eye bar and a suspension chain. So there was a reason for it.
Well, yeah.
Or two very red eye bars.
But that's why it was there, right? Because it knew that was going to happen.
Right. It seems to have some engineering background as well, the owl.
Right.
But as for John Keel...
Well, it has time traveling capability is my thought.
Yeah, there you go. As for the whole Scully Muggle scene, John Keel did get a lot of flack for this flap and his coverage of it. He's our Mad Cujo's winner tonight, but he did get a lot of guff. And this is from Wikipedia, actually kind of calling him out on some stuff. So if you don't mind our 11th reading for you.
Okay. In the May-June 2002 issue of Skeptical Inquirer, journalist John C. Sherwood, a former business associate of UFO researcher Gray Barker, published an analysis of private letters between Keel and Barker during the period of Keel's investigation. In the article, Gray Barker's Book of Bunk, Sherwood reported finding significant differences between what Keel wrote at the time of his investigation and what he wrote in his first book about the Mothman reports, raising questions about the book's accuracy. Sherwood also reported that Keel, who was well known for writing humorous and outrageous letters to friends and associates, would not assist him in clarifying the differences.
Yeah.
He's pooping on it.
Yeah.
Or I should say they are. That's just Wikipedia getting on it, huh?
Yep. And he did
Why
get
they
a lot
gotta
of
be
guff.
like that, man?
Well, it always comes back to the struggling author who needs to sensationalize his work, or the struggling journalist who needs this scoop. And I don't know. There was a lot of weirdness at this time. A lot of people reported a lot of weirdness. He certainly didn't make all of this up. Right. Whether he took liberties, I do not know. You know, if there's no effort to fix discrepancies, though, I think that's a problem. But sometimes the press just likes to give monster hunters a hard time. Look how Vincenzo always kept giving Carl Kolchak and the Night Stalker a hard time. I know you got to see that. You're kind of behind on that one.
Okay.
But if we do find out Keel was pulling our talon, we'll keel haul him, I guess.
Oh, yep. That's a nasty one too, keel hauling him.
Exactly. Here's some other more mundane explanation. This from osu.edu. Your final reading?
Why do you make me read the skeptic stuff? You know I don't like the skeptic stuff.
No one does.
The creature was actually simply a large bird, such as an owl, heron, or even a sandhill crane. The sandhill crane is a bird that stands almost as high as a man and has a wingspan of more than 7 feet, and even has large circles of bare reddish flesh around the crane's eyes. Quote-unquote, monster bird. Possibly explaining both the creature's stature and the red eyes, although the crane was not typically seen in the area during the time period of the sightings. Additionally, both couples reported that the eyes only glowed red, only when their lights shined on it. Okay. A fact that strongly suggests the red eyes were simply a result of the red eye effect that is so common to flash photography.
That again, osu.edu, Mothman of West Virginia folklore. In the show notes, the sandhill crane explanation comes up a lot if you read this. I have to say that it isn't very close to what people report, though. Big, but red eyes, but I don't know. Yeah, this thing's bulky. It's never skinny.
Yeah, I've seen cranes. You wouldn't think the things you think about, this whole Mothman thing about a crane.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like that.
Yep. And again, we look back to Mark Hall. He's talked about giant owls being seen in these parts, the booger owls from, colonial times and beyond. So a large owl fits the bill. I don't think a Sand Crane Hill does, in my opinion.
You know how hard
Based
it is.
on-
You know how hard it is not to laugh every time you say booger owl.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. You're really making
I'm kind of
strides.
proud of myself, honestly.
There you
You've
go.
said it like 20 times in this episode. And this is the first time I even brought it up. And I didn't even make a joke, and I didn't even laugh.
That's awesome. Good for you. Progress, not perfection. This also from osu.edu. Quote, the sighting was so memorable and widely reported the availability heuristic would come into play. People would begin to just associate any strange occurrences to the creature because it was much easier for them to remember. So it became its own schema, became its own dealio, and it just kind of like a snowball rolling down a hill. It got bigger and bigger and bigger, and everything got lumped into this whole flap.
I mean, then you start getting into the concept of thought form monsters, where we're actually creating the image ourselves.
A whole town spooked,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden,
And if
madness
enough people
ensues. Yep.
really think this thing is a thing all at once, if they all look at the same spot together, will they see it all?
Yeah.
Will they all see it? Will it become a real thing?
And again, that explains maybe Reddit and all those old creepypastas. You know, we have things like the rake that we have invented, or the songs about Dogman, and everyone calls in about seeing a Dogman. It's odd what came first, the chicken or the egg, and it's odd that people who all seem to think something's a thing, and often it becomes a thing.
Yeah.
You know, the original, not the John Carpenter version.
Manifestation.
Manifest Destiny. I don't know why.
Let's not do that one. No.
I don't know why I said
No.
that. But back to my old Scully Mogul explanations of Apophenia, also my favorite Who album. But here's Michio Kaku again.
Huh?
We see patterns.
Oh, quadrophenia.
Apophenia? It is not Apophenia?
Mm-mm. Quadrophenia.
Gotcha. Wait, back to Michio Kaku. Quote, we see patterns where there are none. It's what our brains do. That's pretty paraphrased, but that's from old Michio.
Okay.
Which brings us to our Wolfman Puck segment.
Ooh, Wolfman Puck's Cryptid Culinary Corner.
Your entree, sir. Smells good.
So to honor the moth one last time before we slide this permanently into the MLT Owl files, I'm going to use the moth as the basket ingredient.
Slide it into the mausoleum.
The mausoleum. There you go. But the moth is a tough basket ingredient because you can't cook it. Poof, it's gone. Oh, it's all powder and awful and yuckiness, you know. So it's going to be kind of a tough one. But the reason I'm doing it is because we're saying bye to the moth, hello to the owl. So we're going to cook the moth tonight. So I'm making a tequila lollipop with a mothy center. It's like nougat. If nougat was bug Igor. Throw the third switch, Igor.
Not the third switch.
Throw it, I say. So that's what I'm making. I don't feel like I have a beer to serve with that because I don't even want to eat this. I lost. I lost today. I don't want to wash it down with anything. I don't even want to eat it. We're done here.
You're in trouble because I actually prepared this one.
There you go.
Because I had a thought the other day, knowing that the end of Owl Week was coming up. And see, I'm gonna flip it around on you here.
Okay.
I'm gonna feed the owls our totemic demigodish overlord owls.
Wow.
And what do owls eat?
Mice.
Right. And who is the totemic demigodish overseer of mice?
Willard or Ben, depending on the movie.
Mickey Mouse.
Or the Pied Piper, perhaps.
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse.
So I'm going to California. I'm going to wrangle me up a Mickey Mouse. I'm going to drag him back to Wolfman Puck's kitchen and hand him over for preparation.
H.
Oh, no. While the meal is being prepared, I call to and serenade our great owl overlords with a set of my whistle humming, which will culminate in a stirring rendition of the Flight of the Valkyries.
Wow.
Then, once the show is over, so to speak,
Dinner and a show.
I will watch as Wolfman Puck rolls out the giant silver platter with the big cover and pulls it off. Just a big steamy cloud rise up out of it. And I will watch as the great owls violently rend the flesh from Mickey Mouse's steaming bones and then crack the bones and suck out the succulent marrow that was so recently the life's blood of a global empire. Behold the awesome horror of our all-powerful owl overseers.
Did you forget to cancel your Disney app or something? Is this some deep-seated Disney hate here?
Did we talk about bubbles at the beginning of this episode?
We did. We mentioned him.
This may be a problem that we need to look out for in the future. And for the beverage, I present to you Nocturnal Visions from Revision Brewery.
Wow.
I read to you now from the can.
Dang.
This traditional German-style black lager presents notes of chocolate and a hint of roastiness. But don't let the color fool you. This beer has an enjoyable malt profile with a crisp lager finish. So you see, Moz, when you pour this wizardly brew, it looks like a deep, dark beer, but it is actually quite light and refreshing, which means this beer is not what it appears to be. It is, in fact, far, far more. Would you like to see the can?
Dang, dude.
On the can, there are two birds that have very owly sort of bodies, but their heads are just
Together,
giant eyeballs.
They are one owl. If you put them together,
Yeah.
that is the creepiest bird, but they're an owl together.
Yes, but two birds, but one owl.
Two birds, but one owl. You
Two
got show
birds,
and
one
tell.
owl. No.
You definitely won that one. But I think it's the last time we let you sniff glue before we do a podcast again.
Let's not speak of bubbles again.
Or glue, yeah.
Yeah, why did you bring the glue?
Terrible idea.
Terrible.
Well, I'm giving you this Wolfman Puck for sure. And I also want to remind people, Owl Month is actually not over. We have an amazing us file of all our crazy owl stories. Some of them most of them you haven't heard, and we're flushing out the few that we have mentioned. And we also have this Mike Clellan's review of his work, and we're going to try to solve some of his UFO owl woes. So we are by no means done. We saved the best for the last, and I think it's going to be an exciting couple of episodes coming up in just a couple episodes.
We are breaking it up now, though. I'm starting my two-parter on some very weird, spacey stuff next week to bring some variety back. And the side trails, next week will be the side trails from this, which was kind of a true crimey saga that I've been doing in the 4 side trails, which we're going to record the final act of that after this. And then after that is my two-parter on panspermia. Following that is our Halloween episode. It will be coming out a couple days before Halloween, the one after that. We're still not exactly sure what we're going to do there, but we're going to bring you something. Yeah.
It will be spooky.
But yeah, then we'll have more owls, and then we're going to get into other things. We got all kinds of cool stuff planned for the rest of season 2 here. But I think we're ready to wrap this one up. Anything else to add or subvert before we go, Moz?
I do not. Excited about our future episodes, I'll say that.
Nice. I don't think I said it yet this whole episode, but if you could, please hit those happy little fun buttons on whatever platform you're on. The like, subscribe, follow, share. The auto download's a great help. And if you want to go just one step farther from that, if you want to support the podcast, we have a $1 Patreon that you can join, $1 a month. And you can get early access to all this content, the episodes along with their corresponding side trails. It's at patreon.com/monsterlore. Oh, my brain's shutting down. Let's get the heck out of here. So to all my paranerdalists out there.
I think you said to all our feral friends, and I like that. To all our feral friends out there.
To all our fuzzy feral friends out there.
Yeah.
Until the next time, have a good one. Monster Lore Tour Podcast. Why does that always always happen when I'm ready to read. It's like a nervous tick or something.
Not nervous Arthur.
A nervous tick.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm a nervous tick.
Shut up.